Hi, hello and welcome. Right after the intro finishes, which should be right about now, you should see that I'm walking around again in this video. It's another one of those should you read videos about a book that I read and I thoroughly enjoyed this time around, so you can already guess that the answer is probably gonna be yes, you should read it. Because of the fiasco that happened last time when I was walking around where I turned my microphone around for some reason, I this time included a little post-it sticker right there at the front of the microphone where I need to talk into it. This microphone is very great at capturing a wide range of sound, and it does it like in a cone in front of the front part of the microphone. So I need to make sure that I talk into the right direction. Either way, today we're going to talk about a book by Dirk De Wachter, who is a Dutch or a Belgian rather psychiatrist. He is probably the most famous psychiatrist in our country, and the book's title is Love, An Impossible Longing, or in Dutch, right here, Liefde, een onmogelijk verlangen. Exactly the same title. I personally think it sounds a bit better in Dutch, but that might be just my personal preference because it's my mother tongue, my native language, of course. Either way, should you read this book by Dirk De Wachter? In my opinion, yes. This is the first book I covered on my channel in this little mini-series where I can wholeheartedly say yes. This might be influenced by my love for the author because he was a professor of mine and I actually really enjoy the way he looks at the world and the way he kind of corresponds that worldview to other people. But still, I think this book is not necessarily a must-read, life-changing piece of artwork, but I think if you can get your hands on it somewhere, you should definitely take a look. We will go over some pros and cons about the book later, which might be able to convince you to read it or might be able to convince you that, wait, this book is not for me, but that's something for later. First of all, what I want to discuss is what the book is actually about. And as the title might suggest, this book is about love. It's about a psychiatrist's view on love, rather, and that psychiatrist, as I mentioned, is Professor Dirk, or Professor Doctor maybe, Dirk De Wachter. It's also his views on what we can kind of do in this modern westernized world to keep durable love alive, to keep the concept of having a durable relationship alive in our day-to-day lives. And his view on love and durable love is greatly reminiscent of his view on society in general. And that view is one of borderline times. That's really like the concept or the conceptualization of the world that he is most well known for. And as the name suggests, borderline times, it is because he describes the current times that we are living in, the current climate, the current societal processes that are going on, as being very reminiscent of what happens in a borderline personality disorder, which is also one of the most diagnosed psychiatric disorders out there at the moment. And he tries to be an advocate for the perspective that, well, maybe this is not because the disorder is more prevalent, but just because the way we are living our lives is way more reminiscent to what that disorder entails. It's kind of saying the same like, well, not more people are getting depressed, but just the way that we are living our lives is more depressive, but then with borderline symptoms. Some of the examples he brings to the table are instability in love, which is what this book is exactly about. We all have more and more one-night stands, we have more flings, we have more short, unstable, quickly ending relationships. Another thing is identity disorder, being unsure of who you are or not having a stable sense of self. And I think we can all agree that that is something that has been going on a lot lately, especially with all the ideas about gender identity and sexuality as well. A lot of people are starting to doubt, like, am I really this image that I have of myself, or is my self-image something else than what I was preconceived to believe? Impulsivity is another great example because he feels like, he is Dirk De Wachter in this context, feels like everybody is chasing the next high, chasing the next kick, trying to get a kick out of everything in life. Everything has to be amazing, and for everything to be amazing, you have to make quick decisions, you have to make split-second decisions, you have to immediately go for that next rush, and you have to act impulsively. And because of that worldview, durable love has become a rare concept. And he talks us through kind of how can we sustain durable love and how can we contribute to still remaining in durable relationships. We can't make them, we can't just put in all the work and then it will always come to pass, no. But he tells us things we can pay attention to and things we can think about in order to kind of conceptualize the concept of durable love better for us and try to strive towards it. Strive towards it, not make it. He does this, god damn it, there goes my paper already. I'll just need to keep my hand very steady. He does this in 112 pages, or in my version at least, it's a very short book. I won it as a reward from partaking in a quiz, actually. And I read through it in 3 days, but actually 2 days of reading. The day in between I didn't read anything. So it's quickly finished, which is reminiscent of my sex life. This now seems like a boatload information, but I wanted to touch upon some of the central ideas that this book implanted in my head. And of course, a spoiler alert is warranted here because I'm gonna talk about the contents of the book in a bit more detail. One of the things that I already touched upon is his first main point, and that is that it's okay to be unhappy for a while. It's okay to be patient with unpleasant periods or unpleasant activities in our life, and we don't always have to be looking for the most amazing things, the faster things, the quicker things. It doesn't always have to be bigger, better, stronger. It's okay to have some normal days, to have some lull days, to really chill out for a second and not be doing something great, world changing. And that was kind of the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about what I wanted to say in this video, because that is something very dear to my heart. But then the second point right there on the slide, the one in red, I feel like that is really the main point that he tries to get across in the book about its topic. So about love and durable relationships. And that is that love is represented both in the mystical domain, but also in the banalist, everyday domain. I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly. I hope Google Translate gave me the right pronunciation, but either way, banalist. So there's a big paradox right there, right? Because the mystical domain is everything like spirituality, like the meaning of our existence, things that we can't really grasp, things that are out of our control, out of our reach. It's something that we can't understand and we will never be able to understand. That's what the mystical domain is all about. And then the other domain, the normal, everyday domain, that's like the most simplest things in life. Getting out of bed each morning, brushing your teeth, having a nice cup of coffee with the newspaper. And it's really contradictory that a concept like love can be represented in both of those domains. But if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Love is this amazing, vast, expansive concept that really reaches out throughout all the corners of the universe. It's something ubiquitous, something like that.
Ubiquitous.
It's in Dutch, it's alomtegenwoordig. It's something that's everywhere. It's everywhere around us. Everybody knows what love is, but in the meantime, nobody knows what love is. It might not make sense, but if you really, really think about it, I hope that you will realize that it does make sense. And in the meantime, what shows somebody that you really love them? The thing that shows somebody that you really love them is portrayed right there at the bottom. I'll jump to it right now. Love exists in endless repetition. So putting in that effort day after day after day, and just keep investing in the small things, and the small things that bring you happiness in life, and the small things that bring the other person happiness in life. Just randomly buy them flowers, for example, or buy them a nice card that says like you're the best, or just brew a cup of coffee for them in the morning before they get out of bed. Give them a small kiss on their forehead before you go to sleep together. All those small things, and I'm not talking about Blink-182 here, but all those small things are really what show you and your spouse that you are really in love. And that is the basis of a durable relationship. Being accepting towards the not knowing part of love, while in the meantime still investing energy into making sure you both know that the love is there between you. And you do that by doing the everyday small things. An example of us not being able to understand love because it's situated in the mystical domain is what he relates to attachment theory. This is a theory in psychology or psychotherapy, first coined, or maybe not first coined, but kind of made popular by Freud, I believe. And it is about 4 different types of attachments that humans can have. And some of them are safe attachments when your parents give you warmth and safety and autonomy. And some of them are unsafe. And it's generally believed that these attachment styles that you develop because of the relationships you have with your primary caretakers when you were younger are very, very much influential towards how you are later in life in relationships. But what we need to understand is that they are not in a one-to-one relationship with how you are in your relationships later in life. People with a very unsafe attachment style that were, for example, molested or that were sexually assaulted by their caretakers, they can still develop a very healthy and adaptive love life. And the other way around, people that had like the best education out there, the best upbringing out there, that were really loved by their parents, they can still develop relationships that are not that great for them. They can still land into abusive relationships and not realize how to get out of it, for example. So we don't have an understanding understanding of the exact factors that constitute whether somebody is happily in love or not, whether someone will get into an adaptive, durable relationship or not. And that's where that mystical domain comes in, right? That's where you can't know, you can't grasp, you can't predict, you can't put love into a box of understanding. It's something that's out there, and it might happen, it might not happen, but it emerges. From the Gestalt principle, the Gestalt psychology, you can see love as something that emerges from its parts, and it's more than just the addition, than the summation of those individual parts. Love is ambiguous. He compares this to the concept of life in general. Life is only beautiful because it has an end. It's a very harsh thing to say, but because our time is limited, that's exactly why using our time in a valuable way feels so great for us. It feels so nice. Flowers are only beautiful because they wither. Oh man, I'm so poetic. I think I stole that from like Game Grumps or something when they were memeing about it, but it has some truth in it, you know? Most of the things are only beautiful because they can come to pass, because they can go away, and you need to enjoy them in the moment. Such is life, and such is love as well. A durable relationship is impressive and it's beautiful because we know that in our time period we are in right now, relationships don't always last. Separation is kind of more the rule than the exception sometimes now. So a durable relationship is amazing just because of the contrast between what we are used to. And that's where the ambiguous part comes in. It's kind of two sides, just like life. Beautiful in life because we die. Love is not makeable. It's something I try to emphasize already throughout this video, but in our Western perspective, a lot of things are makeable. You just have to put in the effort, you have to put in the work. And to some degree, I still believe it is. That's what I try to bring across when I talked about the endless repetition. But it's not like you can kind of work 10 hours a day to produce a happy relationship, you know? It's small acts of kindness. And love is not something like a larger sum of money you get by working harder at your job. We as Western people, we think that everything is just something that you have to make yourself, you have to fix yourself, you have to do yourself. Love is not something like that. It exists and you can contribute to its source, you can contribute to its energy pool, but you can't completely just make it by yourself or together with your partner. Accept normality. A very short way of saying what he actually wants to say, what Dirk De Wachter wants to say. Accept that you don't always have to go skydiving together, you don't have to ride elephants in India, you don't have to go deep sea diving to the Mariana Trench, you don't have to fly over the Bermuda Triangle together. You can just sit in the sofa and watch a random piece of television together. You can sit in silence together. You can just have breakfast together. You can go out for a cup of coffee together. The normal things, the calm things, the not exciting, the not special things, but the things that lie in that endless repetition and that show that you can exist together. That's what love is all about, what durable love is all about. Don't always look for that rush together, but accept that sometimes it's just normal. You can just do normal things, you can do calm things, you can take it easy together, and that's also something that really shows love. Attraction is normal. Don't feel this big sense of guilt when you feel attracted to another person while you're in a relationship. It's okay to find another person attractive. In that case then, staying with your partner, that is where durable love shines as well. So don't immediately write it off as something wrong or something that shouldn't be happening. It's normal that humans feel attracted to each other even when you're already in a relationship. But then staying in the relationship you're already in, that's exactly what shows durable love. That's again where the ambiguous part comes in, you know? It's beautiful that you are still staying together even though you might have thought somebody else was beautiful. Couples therapy, which is something Dirk De Wachter sometimes does. He calls himself the sadness doctor in the book, which I think is a very touching way of looking at psychologist or psychiatrist. Couples therapy can bring understanding, but it cannot bring salvation. You can talk together with a caretaker about your problems or about the things you are experiencing together, but it won't solve them to just talk about them, right? What were the factors that constituted the way your relationship is right now? What made the problems appear? What exactly are the problems? What do they mean for all parties involved? That's all things you can figure out together with a couples therapist. But as in any form of therapy, the main body of work is to be done by you in between the sessions. You have to put in the work to fix those problems. And then finally, and one that I really found beautiful, and I noted it down as kind of an addition to my own personal worldview, is that we all exist as a story. We don't just exist as a character in a story with some might believe. No, we are entire stories, and we are every element in that story. We are not just the guy walking on a path through life. No, we are the guy. We are also the path. We are the birds that are chirping. We are the plants that are surrounding us. Our entire life story is what constitutes us as a person. And it's okay to have a different story from someone else, even if it is your life partner. It's important to still remain different, to remain distinct entities and not completely fused together. Love exists at the hinge of two stories. So it's a touching point. It's a point where both stories meet, but it's something that still leaves a lot of room for movement, and it still leaves the individual stories intact. It doesn't assimilate them together into one clumpy mess, right? They're still two different entities that are in love, that are in a relationship, but they are still their own person. And that's very important for a durable relationship, according to Professor De Wachter as well. And now that we talked about what the book is about so long, I want to talk about my opinion about the book and why I think you should or should not read it. You probably heard from the way that I was talking about it with all this enthusiasm and all this lively energy that I talked about the concepts he tried to explain, that I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it changed my outlook on love a bit, and it changed it for the better, in my opinion. Some of the pros of this book are that it's a short read, it's easy to read, and he uses layperson terminology. He doesn't use that many difficult psychological, psychiatric words. And if he does, he tries to explain them. That's emphasized in the example I gave, that he calls himself a sadness doctor, right? That's easy to understand what a psychiatrist might mean for someone. The shortness, 112 pages, that's pretty short. Even if you're not really into books, you should realize that is quite a short book, and I read it in 2 days. I could have probably done it in one if I completely focused on it. The book is relatable and it's palpable. You can feel it. You can really see the parallels with your own life. You can recognize your own experiences in some of the things he talks about, and I think that's a great characteristic of a non-fictional book, because that makes it easier to remember the concepts that are portrayed in it. It's an adaptive worldview, in my opinion, especially the borderline times concept I talk about. We all need to slow down for a second and not be looking for that rush, not be looking for instability, impulsivity. We need to rekindle our love for normality and the things that are just regular in life, the things that are banal. I still don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but just the calm things, the easy things. Take a rest for a while, take a break from life. Don't stay in that rat race and get into a burnout. And important, he practices what he preaches. What I mean by that is that he doesn't try to capture love. He doesn't put the emphasis on scientific research that proves that and we know for sure that this happens now and this. No. He talks and writes from a perspective of philosophical thinking about a subject, just his own opinions. He doesn't try to make us understand love. He tries to make us understand what he thinks about love. Because love, as I said, is something that we can't understand completely. We can't know about it completely, ever. Some of the cons then, because, I mean, there's always two sides to a story. The length is very short, and that might be a pro for some people, but it might be a severe con for some people. People that kind of tend to dive into a book that has 500 pages and they don't want to finish something in a day or two, they might not find this book that attractive. Repetition is another big con. Repetition is another big con. Repetition is another big con. He really tries and he succeeds in putting emphasis on the main points that he wants to portray in this book, but he does it with a bit too much repetition sometime, in my opinion. I feel like the book could have been 30 pages shorter, maybe even, if he just made the explanations of some of the concepts a bit less repetitive and a bit more to the core, to the main topic, a bit more to the point, right? Now there's talk about this love as a not understandable concept, as something mystical, in like 3 different sections of the book, and it feels like it could have just been one section. One of my main grievances with the book, something that quite annoyed me, is the interruption by quotes and lyrics. I get what he tries to do. He tries to provide examples that are very clearly related to the subject matter he's talking about, and he succeeds at it, but it kind of drags you out of the rhythm of the book, and it can make it hard to keep yourself focused on what he is trying to say. And a final con, which is especially for my non-Dutch viewers, is that it's gonna be hard to find in English, I think. I don't even know if it has ever been translated, let alone if you will find it somewhere in your bookstore. In Belgium though, you should be able to find it pretty easily. I think you can just order it online on all your favorite book ordering websites. A conclusion then. While I put myself next to this beautiful individual right here, Dirk De Wachter, who is, by the way, recently, or maybe a year ago already or so, diagnosed with cancer, which is very sad to hear, and it has really made a large impact on his life, I believe. But he is such a wise human being, and he has such a clear way of bringing across his points. He adapts the way he is speaking to his audience, and he can really drag you along into what he is saying, you know. He is a great speaker, and he was a great teacher as well. I had him for my course of psychiatry, and he really talked about some interesting perspectives. For example, the idea that the classic medical model is not really that applicable anymore, and we more need to look into a perspective of healing, of recovery, and of emphasizing the individuality of the patient and the autonomy. Not put them in a psychiatric bed and just strap them down, but let them really reintegrate into society. I think it's beautiful. I think it's very important as well. And about this book, I would say, if you can find it, if you are Dutch, you should be able to, but if you can find it, give it a read. Definitely do so. I don't think you will regret it, even though some of the concepts you might feel like, well, I knew this already, but still, reading it again and realizing that a great thinker like Dirk De Wachter is putting the emphasis on it enough to write it into a book, that means that it's an important thought. So even if you already had it in your mind somewhere in the back of the dungeons, right there, nested in some cobwebs, take this opportunity of him, of slashing those cobwebs up and taking the idea out of there and putting it into your online working memory. Take that as a chance to really think about it some more. It can reshape your views on love, and it can instill some mildness for yourself and your partner. You might be doubtful sometimes, like, are we doing this correctly? Are we not too boring together? But no, there is no correct way, because it's not an understandable concept. There is no right way of doing love, and you are never too boring. It's great that you are boring sometimes, that you can just enjoy the little things in life together, like just chilling together or something like that. We do not know what love is, and that is okay. Read the book if you find it. Thanks a lot for watching, or listening most of the time, I guess. It was really enjoyable for me to read this book and to make this video. Put a lot of effort into it, into my process of thinking about the book, and I hope I in some way contributed to your understanding of the concept of love, or to your understanding of this beautiful little book right here. Or maybe the idea of borderline times was very important to you, and I think that's a book that you might be able to find easier in English as well, because it's his most well-known work. Either way, I just hope you got something out of my rambling today, and then I hope to see you in the next video as well. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.